Good afternoon and welcome back to our tutorial on how to create an item in Maya and bring it over into Unreal. So of course I'm making this heart piece. If you haven't done that yet, just make sure you go back and do that before following along. Or if you just want to see how to do the color, you're more than welcome to stick around. So now that we have our heart made and we have our UVs set up, we can bring this over into Unreal. Just want to do a fine point that it is important to put the material on before you send it to Unreal. Otherwise, the UVs will not read as two separate materials. It's a bit tricky. Anyway, before I send this over, my OCD is telling me to clear my values here. I really just want to clear my scale, but I can't just zero it out. So this doesn't matter, but it can depending on what you're making. So I'm going to go up to Modify and then Freeze Transforms. I'm going to go to the options here. I'm actually not going to freeze the translation or the rotation. I just want to freeze my scale. So I hit Apply, and you can see my scales have now been set to 1. So this is the natural size that my heart is going to be, and anytime I multiply it, it'll be a multiplication of this default size here. That's going to make, if I have to make any changes in Unreal later, it'll make life easier for me. Okay, go ahead and hit Close on that. And now I'm going to select my object, go up to File, come down to Export Selection, and we want to name this SM for static mesh because it's not going to be mobile, _ heart. Hi kitten, how's it going? Sorry for the interruption, that's my cat Misty, she's saying hi. Say hi. Hi. Oh, little butt. Okay, as you can see, I do have a couple extra here. I did have some issues in the recording in the previous one, so no worries. I'm going to go ahead and name this Heart. I'll call this Demo 3. Third time's a charm. And we do want to make sure that the file type is set to Fbx Export. So in the drop-down, just choose Fbx Export. In the Fbx settings, go ahead. You might see some different tabs here. Just make sure under the animation tab, we don't have any animations to bake, so just make sure that's unchecked. And let's see, under geometry, I'll go ahead and check smoothing groups. Now I'll hit export. If you don't check smoothing groups, Unreal will just complain that you didn't check smoothing groups. It's not a big deal, just wanted to not have that error or that warning. Alright, so I'm going to go to New Project. You could make this in a project that you already have. No big deal. For the fun of it, though, I want to be able to pick up my object. So I'm going to go to a third person. That way I don't have to write any additional code for now. I'm going to set my quality to scalable, and I'm not going to have any starter content. Go ahead and name this guy, I'll say Heart Demo. And create. Alright, once we're loaded up, the first thing I like to do whenever I start a project is I really like to go over to my content browser that's down here at the bottom where it says filters. To the left of filters, I like to hit these little 3 lines and just bring up my content list. That way I can see everything. I really hate things being hidden on me. It drives me nuts. I'm going to grab content here, and I'm going to go ahead and hit add new, and I want to create a new folder. I create this folder. It's going to be called mesh. Put my meshes in here. Inside my meshes folder, I will then import my mesh. And there it is, Heart Demo 3. I'll go ahead and open. Okay, you're going to get prompted with your import, your Fbx import options. You could auto-generate collision, which is what this will usually do. If you have your own collision body, you can say no. We're actually going to create a collision body later, so we don't need to have this checked. But right now it doesn't really matter, so up to you. Down here where it says import materials, since we did create some base materials in Maya, we're going to say yes, and then import. And there we are. Our heart is loading in. You can see the gem color there, the border color. I'm going to drag the heart into the level. And if I were to play from here, you can see my heart there. It's a little bit smaller than the one from the other one. I made the other one pretty big, so. But there it is. And it does have collision, so if I step on it, I can't go anywhere. but I can stand on it. All right, so I exit the window. And what I want to do first is actually adjust my colors. So if I go here, you can see the colors are pretty bland and not very spectacular. The first one I want to do is my gem color. So I'm going to go ahead and double click on that, bring it up. And when we first enter our material attributes, you can see that the base color parameter node and our shader node are kind of on top of each other. Just kind of go ahead and spread those out. It's just what happens whenever you import stuff. They like to pile them all on. I'm going to name the parameter here over in my details. Go ahead and select him. In my details, I'm going to name that gem color. And what's nice about having this set up as a parameter is we can change this anytime we want to, either through code or through the game. So the next thing I want to do is want to make sure that this is translucent, because the gemstone kind of has translucency. But you can see our opacity value, the thing that controls our translucency, is certainly currently unavailable. I'm going to select the shader, come down to the details, and under blending mode, I want to go to translucent, and that'll set that so it's translucent for us. I also, while I'm in here, I want to come down, and since we have, this is going to be a gemstone, we want lighting when it goes through it to actually give the impression that it's actually going through a medium. To do that, we want to set this to surface translucency volume. That's our lighting mode, by the way. Just set that to surface translucency. Let that do its thing. And for my opacity, I'm going to drag off a wire, and I want to grab, and you actually see that it's actually working right now. It's kind of going through. I want to grab a Fresnel. So Fresnel. Yeah, they like to, the French love to add little silent letters there. So it's pronounced Fresnel, but it is a Fresnel. That's how it's spelled. It's under utility. Go ahead and add that. And just with that on here, we should see a nice transparent object. But this is way too transparent for me. So what I want to do is actually want to drive the exponent of our Fresnel here. So I'm going to drag off a wire from the exponent value. Grab a scalar parameter. So scalar, it's under parameters, scalar parameter. So a scalar parameter, it's just a variable that we can give a single value to. And we can access this outside of our material editor. So I'm going to give it a name, call this opacity value. And then my default value for now, 0 would be, or 0 on our Fresnel will actually be opaque. 1 will give us almost full transparency on the Fresnel. See that? That's kind of cool. This is kind of what I want. So I'm actually going to leave it there. So the thing that we're really looking for on a glassy surface is the middle of it is almost perfectly translucent, and then the outer edges, as the light kind of permeates through, gets thicker. Right? So translucent, and then solid, which is the effect that we're going for. I'm going to leave that at 1, but you can play with this value if you like. The next thing I want to do is add, I'm going to move that out of the way. I want to add some shininess to do that. I'm going to use the metallic, so I'll drag that off. And I'm going to drive this with a linear interpolate. So just type in LERP for lerp. That's the shorthand. And then under math here, we want linear interpolate. With our linear interpolate in place, I'm going to select my opacity value parameter here. Press Ctrl W to duplicate that off. I'm just going to plug that into the A value. And I'll name this new one. I'm going to call this metallic front value. And I say front value because we're going to actually drive, in theory, the front of this is going to have some reflection, and then we're going to have one going into here for the side value of the reflection. I'll leave that at a default value of 1. I'm going to go ahead and duplicate that, Control W. Plug this one into B. And then the new one, metallic side value. So side value. And I don't want to interpolate between the same values, so I'm going to go ahead and change this up. I'm going to do 2.5 or 0.25. Next on our list, we're going to do the roughness. I'm going to go ahead and spread this over. Grab the roughness value. I'll do a scalar parameter. Scalar parameter. I'll name that roughness value. And with a roughness value of 0, it'll actually be very, very smooth. You'll see it nice and polished like a marble. Look at that. Now, I don't want mine so shiny. I'm going to actually dial it down. I'm going to raise that to 0.15 just to give it a little bit of maybe like it's been sanded or some little bit of scuffing. Awesome. Go ahead and arrange these. I actually need some more room, so grab these two. Move this out of the way. Because now I want my specular. So put this down here. And then for my specular value, I'm going to actually copy my lerp. So my metallic and my lerp. Control W. Move that here. And then plug that into specularity. I'll name the first one specular front value, and then specular side value. What specular is going to do is it's going to actually add some shininess in relation to the fall off of the light. So as I turn around this, kind of see it here. There's like a little bit of a gloss that appears when I'm in direct lighting, which is what you would see if you look at through like a gemstone or a diamond or a piece of glass. And then lastly, we want to add our reflections. I'm actually going to duplicate this again, so I'm going to go ahead and grab this, Control W. I'm going to plug in this into our reflection. And I'll call this reflection front. And then reflection side value. Once that comes through, you can see that nice glassy kind of object. And you can play with any of these values to increase or decrease the glassy look of your gemstone. Right now I just kind of have these all set to about the same thing, but that's just me being lazy. Alright, so we're done with this material. I'm going to go ahead and hit the checkbox. We'll apply that. And make sure you save Unreal because it does tend to be a bit crashy. So I'll go ahead and hit File, Save All. Always choose Save All. I recommend this to everybody because if you hit Save, it only saves the one thing you were doing. It doesn't do all the things that you've been doing. So just make sure you do Save All. It'll save everything you've done since you've opened the project. Go ahead and close this material out. And you can see right there, there's our gemstone material. And as I move through the different lighting, and my center is actually a little bit too translucent. I'll have to adjust that. But you can see it based on the different angles, like that little gemstone look. I'll thicken that up in just a minute. The next part I want to do is the rim of our object. So I'm going to go ahead and double click on border color. Once again, we have to separate these two pieces, so I'm just going to move this off. I'll name this parameter. Call this border color. And this one's pretty easy. We're just going to make a metallic shiny color. So I'm going to drag off metallic, grab another scalar parameter, and I'll call this metallic value. And the higher the metallic value, the more metallic this will look. So if I drop a 1 in here, you'll see it looks pretty metallic. Looks like somebody spray painted a metallic coating onto something that was plastic. I'm going to drag off my specularity, scalar parameter. You could just duplicate it. I was just being whatever there. Call that specular value. I'll just do a 1 on that. And then I want my roughness value. So I'm going to duplicate this, pop that into roughness. For my roughness value, go ahead and change that name. And you can see I have a value of 1, and this kind of looks like a little fuzzy, glowy ball. I actually drop this down. I'm going to do 0, and you'll see this is a really nice, polished, metallic. And you can see right here that the specular is kind of gleaming when you kind of move in the light. And you can adjust your metallic value and your specular value as you need. I'm actually going to take my roughness up a little bit. I don't want it to be this shiny. I'm going to make it look more like, I don't know, like brushed aluminum or something. There we go. I hit the checkbox. And I will save. So save all. There's the metal. And there's that. And now here comes the cool feature. So we have our 2 colors here. And I actually want to turn these into material instances. So I'm going to right click on the gemstone color, create material instance. And what's cool about a material instance is this will allow me to update this in real time without having to go back into the material editor. So I'll drag that onto the gemstone itself. And you can see when I do that in my details where it says gemstone color, you can see gemstone color _ inst. That's the instant or instance. That will allow me to do what I need. I'll do the same thing to my border. I'll drag that onto my border value there. And you can see they're both now using the instance. So here's where it gets cool. I'm going to double click on my gemstone color. Go ahead and minimize just so we can see it in the editor. Whoops. Drag this out. Size my window here. And you can see that all of those parameters we set up are listed right here. So there's the gemstone color for the color value. I can check that. I can change it in real time. So let's say if I wanted this to be green, voila, it's now green. If I wanted to change the glassiness of this, I can adjust my Fresnel value, my opacity. I can dial that down, make it solid, or I can make it, you know, more transparent. I'm going to do this one at 0.25. Kind of cool. You can dial in any of these values that you need and kind of play around with this. It's just really good for if you're trying to do something in game and have it do something live, or if you wanted to just edit things in real time without having to worry about everything trying to compile. So I'll go ahead and save that. And I'll do the same thing to my metallic just so you can see it. let's say instead of being a silver color, I wanted this to be gold. I could grab, a yellow, kind of ramp this up. Now I have a shiny gold color. And if you want to know, and this actually came out pretty well on a guess, but if you really wanted to know, it's actually more of a brass color. But if you wanted like an actual gold color, you can always Google the RGB value and you can type it in right here. And I leave that as it is. I'll hit OK. Save that. So that's going to do it for this video. In the next one, we're going to set up the interactive properties for our objects so that we can pick it up. We'll also set up the health component for our characters so we can actually gain health after picking up the item. All right, so I hope you guys have enjoyed this. Of course, leave a comment or a like or subscribe or whichever, and I will see you in the next video.